Well, here we are, another stop on the journey to finding hope, inspiration, and positivity in this crazy world we all live in. You are listening to Changing the Perspective podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel and like this video below. If you are listening on a podcast service, please like our podcast on your preferred service. No matter how you choose to hear this interview, we are grateful you are following us on this journey. Hey everyone, welcome back to a super crazy and amazing interview of Changing the Perspective. Today, I have 15 other people here joining me today, and we're doing something called 20 Questions of Abuse. All of the people you have sitting in this screen right now have all experienced abuse in some form. So of all of these people right now, we are crossing, and now we're at 5 countries. I did have one drop off. We're at 5 countries. We do cross about 7 time zones, and we're in about 11 different states in the United States as well. And so this is absolutely amazing. I'm so excited that we are all able to join each other. We all found each other when I did a post on a podcast community and just said, hey, trauma victims, I have this idea. Do you want to join? And everyone joined, and it was awesome. And so I'm super excited about what we can bring today. Today, these people that you see on their screen are covering 6 different types of abuse, whether it's a significant other, parent, child, coworker, family, and one of us on here has been stalked by a stranger. Also, we cover 7 different forms of abuse: mental, emotional, physical, sexual, financial, verbally, and spiritual. So this is a huge variety of people that you all are seeing on the screen. If you're watching on a podcast, you should check it out on YouTube, because this is pretty amazing to see everybody's faces that we have. So what we're planning on doing is to show commonality between abuse. Because we are all covering a very wide variety of abuse, we are just wanting to come together as a community and show that there's common threads among just the abuse community, regardless if it's a parent, significant other, or any type that you've been under. So if you have experienced any form, this is an amazing video to be watching, as we are going to bring some cool things to you today. So how this is going to work is each person on this screen is going to be asking a question of an experience that they've had. We are all going to raise our hands and tell, like, yes, we agree, yes, we've experienced, or no, we haven't, depending on their question. And then they're going to tell us a small story about why they chose that question, so that you can hear from everyone that is currently here. So really excited about this. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. So here we go. I will just go ahead and start with question number 1. So the first question we've got is, how many have had to deal with holidays, family events, vacations, or days off that were sabotaged because your abuser wasn't a part of it? All right, so that's 10. So of the people that are on here, that is 62.5% of us have experienced that. And the reason that I chose that is, I'm not sure I ever went on a vacation or a holiday that my significant other didn't try to make it about him. And you know what's sad about that is other people's birthdays that were about the other person, and yet he needed to make sure that something happened about him. I had 2 different vacations. That one I actually ended up on by myself, because I refused to not go to this beautiful vacation we had paid for, because he was sabotaging it and didn't want to leave. I just left. The second one, we went, and he worked from the room the whole time. And then the last day was just like, I just can't believe I missed this whole thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I care. Although those 2 were at the very end of my relationship. The time before, I would maybe sit in the room with him and sulk away half of my vacation. And I decided at some point it wasn't worth doing that anymore. So I wanted to see who else had had that experience, which is why I chose that question. So next up, let's hear from Shannon.
Okay, there we go. Hi, my name is Shannon Turner. My question for everyone is, did you know that a spouse forcing sex upon us was still considered rape?
I'm muted. I'm sorry. That was an 11 that raised our hands that said, yes, we were aware of that. So that is 68.75% of this group said yes. So why did you choose that question?
Because I was not aware of that. I was not aware of that until after we had left. And when I was talking to law enforcement and I was telling them the things that we had endured, they were like, that's considered spousal rape. I think I was in such shelter shock during the whole marriage. I didn't even associate that that was a thing. It was just onslaught of abuse tactics and so many other things that I flipped into survival mode and kind of numbed out. But I'll never forget that day when the law enforcement officer was like, you have been basically raped throughout that duration of time. And it just was like, wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of people shaking their head right now, whether they had the experience or they at least are aware. You had a lot of people relating to you with that story. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, Mo, are you ready?
Ready. And I want to say, first of all, thank you for having me. I think this conversation is well needed.
Thank
and
you.
My question is, do you find yourself dating the same type of men? Sorry. My question is, do you find yourself dating the same type of men and having a hard time accepting love from a significant other that treats you differently from others that treated you in the past?
Yes. So the question, do you have a hard time dating those type of people again? So there's 9 of us. 9 said yes. And that is, hold on, let me find it, 56.25%. So why did you choose that?
Does she have a hard? Do we have a hard time dating those same kind of people?
So I said, do you find yourself dating the same type of men, and having a hard time accepting love from a significant other that treats you differently? So like you've had, your past relationship would have been a horrible guy or something like that, and then when someone treats you differently, you just like, okay, why is that person loving me? Why is that person treating me that way? I've never expected that. It's a 2-part question in a sense. Yes, I guess. Yes.
So we only have 16 on the call. Let's just make that a 2-part question. So
I apologize.
No. This is great. So question number 3 from her then, do you find yourself dating the same type of person? So that would be question number 1. And if you do, raise your hand. Hold on, I got the chat thing that came up. I got to count. So that's 6. So the first question is, we had 6 that said yes, which is 37.5%. The second part of your question was, do you have a hard time accepting love from a significant other that treats you differently based off of your situation? And at first, mine is yes. So that's 9. So 9. So we're at 56.25% for your second question. So that's question 3 and 4. Thank you.
I didn't realize that.
No, this is perfect. Yeah. No, we have spots to fill, so this is wonderful. So why did you choose that question?
I think it's really from my personal experience. I've dated guys that, I've always been, independent. So you've never really needed that kind of emotional connection. So you had guys that would treat you bad and you just rub it off and build it hard shell. And then you never had the guy tell you I love you or just basically treat you like the woman that you need to be, right? So then I have my current boyfriend. He tells me he loves me every day. He tells me so many nice things. He cooks for me. He does my laundry. And I sit there going, I don't understand. So it's more of the fact that, understanding that you deserve that kind of love. And it's been 4 years now. So it's getting better. It's getting better. But it's knowing that all the guys that you dated before never treated you the way that you should be treated. And then accepting that you are worthy of being loved like that, and then being happy in that situation. So I took a chance out of my comfort zone, and I am, like, people tell me I've de-aged. Like, I look happy. I'm not miserable. And I just, like, I've grown as a person in the past 4 years than I've ever been. So it's more of, learning to love yourself enough to accept someone to love you as much as you deserve to be loved. That's why I asked that question.
Awesome. I think that's great. That would be a wonderful separate discussion for sure. I know several of us on here that I've personally interviewed from this group. We would be all over that discussion right there. Both lawyers are like, "Yep." So I thank you. I appreciate those. Both of those questions were wonderful. All right, Terry K, what do you got?
Hi there, I'm Terry Kozlowski, and my question is, after the abuse was over, how many of you struggled with negative self-talk?
That's like 13 of us. Lots of us were on that one. So 13 of us, that's 81.25%. So why did you choose that question?
My abuse was from my mother, abandonment, and she allowed 3 men to molest me when I was 11 years old so she could have drugs. So for me, the worthiness factor of me not feeling worthy of any love, because if your mother can't love you, who does? So I went a lot of times and went through years where her voice in my head telling me those things, that I was unworthy, or it was my fault she was an alcoholic. It was my fault for all the bad things that were happening into her life. So obviously then I am unworthy of love because I am the cause of all this. So all the negative self-talk really battered me for about a decade before I realized that I was the one pushing the play button in my head. I was the one repeating in my head her words over and over and over again. So being able to figure out that, okay, don't play that. Don't turn that tape back on, because she was literally out of my life. I hadn't spoken to her for years. So it was me that was causing that. And so our negative self-talk is what I think causes us more harm than the abuse, because when the abuse is over and you're out of that, we stay trapped in it because of the negative self-talk that we impose upon ourselves.
Yes, I would agree with that. Paulo and I actually had an interview almost about this same subject, because negative self-talk can tear your world into all kinds of pieces in lots of ways. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. So to recap the first 5 questions we've had so far, the first question was, how many had to deal basically with sabotage of any holidays, family events, or vacations? And 62% of us said yes. The second question was, do you know that unconsented sex, even between spouses, is still rape? 11 of us said yes, we knew, and that was 68.75%. Yes. Mo, on question 3 and 4. So question 3, do you find yourself dating the same type of people? And 6 said yes. And that percentage, I'm sorry, I forgot that, was 37.5. And her second question was, do you have a hard time accepting love from significant others that treat you differently? And 9 of us said yes. And actually, I'm going to count this as 10, because I think Angela was not a part of that question. And I've interviewed her before, and that is a yes, right, Angela? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to change that to 62.5% of us said yes. And then number 5 was, after the abuse, how many of us struggle with self-talk? And 13 of us said yes, which is 81%. And that's a huge subject in general, and something we should talk about definitely further. So first 5 questions are done. Let's move on to the next 5. So Maggie, your turn. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so my question is, do you believe that you can fully heal from trauma?
And raise your hand if you say yes. Oh, 15. Most of us say yes. So of that one, so 15, that is 93.75%. So why did you ask that question?
Yeah, I asked this question because I've been asked this question a lot. People have asked me, do you believe that you can fully heal? Just from my personal experience, I was abused by my dad growing up. It was physical, mental, emotional, sexual. And it was a lot for me to forgive and heal from that. And when I tell that story, people have asked me, do you truly believe that you can heal from all of that and free yourself from all the trauma? And I believe, yes, you know, it's all a belief system. If we say that we can't heal, if we say that we're constantly going to be in this cycle of healing and never get out of it, that's the reality that we're going to experience because it's what we believe in. But if we believe that we can fully heal and free ourselves and get out of all of this and experience the love, peace, and freedom that we truly deserve to experience, that's going to become our reality.
I love that. You know, the healing factor, everybody heals on a different timeline, obviously. And for me, I've been out for almost 5 years and I still have triggers that come up every once in a while. I don't consider myself not healed though. Those triggers are just something new that I need to figure out or handle. But I'm in a way better place, in a different place. So that's an amazing subject to definitely talk about. So thank you for bringing that question for sure.
Thank you.
I love it. All right, Dee Dee, your turn.
Having me.
Oh, thank you.
How many of you believe that generational behaviors contribute to the abuser's behavior?
Oh, yeah. That is 11 as well. So or 15, sorry. So that's 93.75%. Tell us why you chose that question.
Mainly because I've been emotionally abused by my parents and by my ex, and I always try to take the side of trying to look back to make to see what makes people tick.
Yeah.
And like with my mom, I had to learn stories about what contributed to her being an emotionally abusive person. My father was a narcissist and severely, just emotionally abusive. And so you just start to look back and you see that those are behaviors that carry forward from their past. And they never took the time to change those behaviors and change the patterns. Whereas I'm different, because I was abused by these people, I made sure that I didn't parent my children the same way. And I made sure to let my kids know that, what a toxic behavior is, what a toxic environment is. And so we have to just start breaking those generational patterns. So that's my reasoning for asking the question.
I love it. Breaking the cycle.
Yes.
Yes. I love that. Okay. Next, Jackie R.
Has childhood trauma created a pattern of body shaming for you?
Probably. So that's 7. So 7 of us, that's 43.75%. So talk about that one a little bit.
So the first time that I started obsessing over my weight was when I was 5 years old. I was sitting in the back seat of a car being driven to school, and I noticed that my thighs would get wider as I was sitting, which is natural. But at the time, I compared them back and forth. So then I started to lift up my thighs to make sure that they looked smaller every time I was sitting. And then later that year, as I'm trying on my dress for kindergarten graduation, and the arms are elastic, and I loved this dress, but they were tight on my arms. And I remember feeling how much they hurt and wondering why my friends didn't have those deep marks on their arms from these sleeves. But I chose to take it anyway. So I spent all of this time at this young age already finding reasons to hate myself. Meanwhile, my grandfather had been sexually abusing me for 2 years at that point.
Wow. Wow. Well, that is hard. Childhood is hard. what's sad, and all of us on this call understand abuse better now, but what's sad is that some of us didn't have childhood. Like we really didn't have fun kid-like childhoods. It's taking from us in forms like that, your negative self-talk at 5 and 6, and an abusive parent, grandparent, family, friend. So I hate that for you, but thank you for bringing that to us. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see. Was that one? Paula, are you there? It's your turn.
Can you hear me?
Yes. What question do you have for us?
My question is, at the beginning or during the relationship, did you feel like you were the one to be the savior or victim because you needed to?
You have 11 or you have 15 of us all shaking our heads. So that's 93%. So talk about that.
Well, I was always taught that, always put others first, always do other things for other people. And when I attracted this person, I felt that compassion, that really good kind of person that wanted to be the one, also my ego, wanting to be the one to fix him, to be looked up upon, like, oh, look, he came from such a horrible place, but I fixed him. And I think a lot of us can relate to that yes, he tells us the sob stories of how horrible his life is. And we, the angels, are going to come over and rescue him and save him and change his personality and character because he loves us so much. So for me, that was something that I have learned, that I have to put myself first, that I won't be able to change any other person because of how they are, right? The only person I can save is myself.
Yes.
So
yeah. Back, I got a follow-up question to that. Have any of us successfully changed the person we were with? Oh, Mo. We've got one person. I feel like you need to unmute and tell us how you successfully changed the person you were with.
I think so my current relationship, he came from a bad relationship. Like he spent 10 years in a really bad relationship. So it's more of rebuilding his self-esteem. Because when you see something in somebody and you just like, they need that push, right? So the person I'm with now to the person I met 4 years ago is a totally different person. He's more self-confident and he's going somewhere with himself. He talks back to me now, but I'm working on that. But not in a bad way. What I meant is like, you can see that the kind of man that he should have been if he had the right support when he was young and the right people behind him. So it's not like I was saving him, but more of like, when you're being someone's best friend and you helping them realize, what, you're more than what you think you can. I spent years just telling him you could do it, you can do it. And now he's like, yeah, I'm like, okay, don't get your ego too much. I remember what it was like when you started. But yeah, so it's not like I was wanting to save him, but sometimes like everybody else, you need that person behind you saying you can do this and you rooting for you. And when you get that person, the person you become is really good. So he's helped me, vice versa. Like I would say, when someone loves you and then you get it, it's vice versa. But that's really it. I'm just going to mute myself down.
I feel like I need to give you a round of applause though for successfully changing someone. The rest of us are.
Can I just mention something? I think this is because of the person that was that we were in a toxic relationship. From what Mo's saying, I don't think your relationship was toxic, or was it? So I think there's a difference between changing somebody that you're with, that is a healthy relationship, and you're always going to have to go the give and take. But when somebody is who they are and you're never going to change him, I think it's very, very different, because he's abusing, he's putting you down. If you try to tell him, whether you cry, whether you scream, whether you beg, whether you're silent, it's not going to change.
100%,
so
I agree.
Maybe there's a big difference.
No, there is. Please.
That's true.
I 100% agree.
Okay, well then the question revised would be, were you successful to change someone who was truly an abuser? And that would be a no from everyone, because everybody else was like, nope. Okay, very good. I'm actually going to count that as one of the questions since we only have 16 on here. I can do that, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's recap the second group of questions. So we had, do you believe that you can fully heal from trauma? And 15 of us said yes. That was 93.75%, which is amazing. Dee Dee asked, how many of you believe that generational behaviors contribute to the abuser's behavior? As well, 15 of us said yes. That was 93.75%. Then we had Jackie ask, has childhood trauma created a pattern for body shaming? And 7 of us said yes. That was 44%. Then we just talked about this. So Paulo asked, did you feel like you could save the person or change the person? And when you got in the relationship, 15 of us said, yeah, that was 93%. My follow-up was, has anybody successfully done that? And the answer is no, 0, not even kind of. Mo talked about a healthy relationship that she's in now that they've leaned on each other and they've made each other better people, but not from an abuse situation. So that was a lot of fun. That was a good one.